everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with your stars, Cirroc Lofton and Aron Eisenberg. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are joined with Hana Hatae of Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation. She played Molly O'Brien. How you doing, Hana?
Hi, guys. I'm good. Thank you for having me. Super stoked to be virtually hanging out with you guys.
Virtually.
We're all in separate rooms of the same house right now. So
Yeah. Cirroc, close your door.
All right.
Put your pants on, man.
So we've got a lot of big news.
How did you know?
Before we get too deep into anything, number one, the big elephant in the room is the new Star Trek Picard trailer. What did you, oh, by the way, it's a special occasion. So we've got our Picard tie out. For those of you that don't have your Picard tie, make sure to wear it today.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because I the last time I saw Patrick Stewart, he seems really fit and he's, you know, in good shape. But in that trailer, he seems like he's older than how I remember him in person. And so I was looking for a walker or something, some kind of assistance.
A walker?
A cane.
Wow.
His little wheelchair or some shit.
Something. It looked a little weird.
Maybe a one-legged scooter?
Exactly, our floating wheelchair.
Wow. That's your first response to the brand new Picard trailer that was released at San Diego Comic-Con.
Aron, have you met Cirroc?
That's what I thought. It was a little bit, you know, old.
No, but I mean, look at who's coming back. We have Jerry Ryan as presumably 7 of 9, probably Annika Hansen at that point. We have Brent Spiner probably being Data. Maybe
he was just in the drawer.
But maybe Data. Well, he did come back at the end.
He's there.
Oh, I was just kidding.
Now we also have Hugh the Borg, who was in a few episodes of Next Generation. He was in one called I, Hugh or something like that, and a two-parter as well. He plays a Borg, so he's coming back. And so it's definitely going to be Borg-centric. Plus, we saw the Borg Cube. You know, that was 7 of 9 and Hugh. Also, they've announced that that Commander Riker and Deanna Troi are both coming back as well.
Oh, shit.
Whew. What do you guys think of all that?
Well, is this going to be like a limited run series, or are this meant to be a full on show?
It's most likely, the signs are pointing towards 3 seasons or so of 10 episodes per season. So, you know, maybe 30 episodes, maybe there'll be a 4th season, but that's about what it'll be.
Yeah. I assume if it does really well, then they're hopefully going to do more than just the 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, here's my thought on the Picard trailer. I wanted a prequel. And I was very upset.
You haven't had enough prequels, huh?
Another prequel.
Actually, I thought it looked really, really good. It looks exciting. I look forward to seeing it. I feel it's spot on that he's older. He looks like he went away and has to come back. And there's, what it looked like to me is there's a lot of weight on his shoulders. Yeah. And you wonder, what is the weight on his shoulders? But as I said prior to us beginning the show, I feel a little like, oh, now they got to get together. They got to get a crew together. And now they got to go save this girl to save the world. I felt that was a bit, I feel like we've seen that so much. We you know, it felt like Wolverine. In a way, I felt it was like Wolverine 2, 2.0. But I loved all the other characters that they showed, and I was interested in knowing more about them. And I truly do want to see what it really is about. And I love Patrick Stewart. I love watching him. And I liked seeing Jerry Ryan at the end. It was pretty cool, I have to admit. I scoured the 2 minutes. I think it was 2 minutes for Captain Nog. I think I saw him in the background of the background. You know, I think I just kind of walked by. I think I got to watch it again just to double check. And I think Jake was following along. I do.
taking
Yeah,
notes.
Jake was taking some notes.
I was writing.
Because he and I were doing a documentary at the same time that this takes place.
Mhm.
So he was doing a documentary on Nog's life and how he became a captain, and so
No,
Happened to
no,
Chuck
I wasn't.
Woolley. Come on.
Now, Hana, what did you
Well,
think
'cause
of
you-
the
you-
trailer?
you were very angry at me at this point in the trailer when we were walking. So that's why
Like, screw these guys. I'm going somewhere else.
you were mad at me.
Yeah. Well, when am I not mad at you?
Exactly. That's exactly what I tell everybody.
That's my line.
Well, now there's two of you.
Yes, let's get him, Molly.
We win.
Wow.
Aha.
Ow.
So what did you think?
I was intrigued the whole time. It seems very action packed, which I like. It was definitely, I agree with Aaron in that sense that it's like kind of weird that we're watching Picard save the world or whatever from this one girl that we don't know anything about. But I'm very intrigued to see what else is going on within the series. It seems pretty interesting for sure.
I look forward to seeing it. I look forward to watching it. And Cirroc, we talk about like what if they did like our show like they did Discovery, right? And you kind of get that now in a way. It feels like a movie also. It does feel like a movie. It felt like another TNG movie,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it didn't feel TNG at all. So when I looked at it, I didn't feel TNG. I don't know if that's true for you guys, but I guess maybe being on the Enterprise or, being on the ship is different than what I saw visually. I saw a little bit of Earth scenes and then another ship that was completely kind of dark, which is funny because it was really a dark ship, and they're known for the pastel-y type of really bright colors on their show. So as far as that, I didn't feel the Next Generation. I did feel the cast members and them bringing back Seven of Nine and Data, and I thought that was great because I like to see them use the actors that they've already have had that have built up the brand. So I'm glad that they're doing that and recycling those characters. So that's interesting to me. Then there's the new people that I would like to probably get to know a little bit more and how they function and what their role is. But I think
one. Never mind. I was going to make a bad joke. I stopped myself.
No, but the Borg storyline I was never a big fan of, though. Just for the record, me personally.
Well, it really upset your father, so I could understand that. It really, really put him in a bad place. I don't think I've ever made Ryan
Borg.
chuckle out loud. I think it's the first time I made Ryan chuckle out loud. Hana, would you like to be in the Picard series if you had an opportunity?
Yeah. Why would
Yeah,
I?
you would. I know, right? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Yeah,
I think Colomini might not. I don't think.
See, as I told you guys, everybody's in play. And we now know that because it wasn't just a few Picard or Next Generation people that were in it, but there was also somebody from Voyager. There was also somebody that was only in a couple episodes of Next Generation. I'm telling you, everybody's in play. And if you don't get a call this season, I mean, remember, there are only 10 episodes. So there's only so many, fan moments they can create in 10 episodes. Right. So anybody that's out there that wants to be on the show, I'll bet you very few people have names that are not in play. Maybe you'll get a call for season 3. Maybe they're going to look for a Lieutenant, Molly O'Brien in season 3, or Captain Nog to rise up from the ashes in season 3, or for Jake Sisko to write about it.
To write about Captain Nog rising from the ashes with Molly right by his side. Okay. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think. Where are they filming this? They're filming it here, right? In LA, right?
Yeah, most of it is being shot theoretically in Santa Clarita. That's where the main stages are. But they're shooting some things on location. I know they shot some stuff in Anaheim, but the main base is in Santa Clarita. So yeah, LA area.
So what I suggest for us is kind of like when they have a new phone coming out at Best Buy and everybody hangs out weeks before in front of Best Buy. We should go hang out in Santa Clarita, pop up some tents. Just say, hey, we're still here. We're right here. We're ready.
Field trip. Are you guys? I'm down. We'll go
He said,
on a
guilt trip.
on a Monday through Friday because that's when we work, and we'll go to Santa Clarita and we'll just kind of scout the area around.
I still have my
no.
uniform, so I can put it on, and
my
I'm
God.
ready just to make them. That's all we right.
Let's fucking do it. I mean, we have the 3 kids, 3 Deep Space Nine kids. How can they deny that? Come on.
How-
But
how
Hana,
can
do you
they
still
deny
have your
kids,
onesie?
right? Starving kids.
Yeah, come on. You gotta help us. Come on.
Hana, do you still have your onesie?
I don't think I can fit it. I know I haven't grown that much, but I've grown enough to not be able to.
You know, now I'm going to transition to the DS9 documentary real quick. And I was thinking, you know, one of our patrons said that you should be the XO to Captain Nog. And I was thinking, how perfect would that be in the 8th season? Because if something happened to me, you'd be the only one that could also sit in the chair. Because the captain's chair would be so much lower. There's only 2 people that could sit in that chair.
Good point.
Okay, count me in. I mean, I don't want to kill you off or anything, but I'll take
Well, that might
It's
be
too
a
late.
storyline. That
It's
might be
too
a
late for
storyline.
that.
Yeah, you and Jake's brother are plotting to get rid of Nog, you know.
Ira already did a good job of that. You know what I thought was funny about the Picard trailer was when he goes on the ship and they have this hand drawn colored banner that says, you know, welcome back Picard.
Yes. No, that
And
was
it-
Picard Day. That's from the series.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, is that a child's writing?
Yeah.
Like,
Is that like a 7-year-old? They didn't have any
it's like
like.
a, yeah, a
there's
You know
no
what
child.
new-
that's from?
There's no new way to celebrate. You know, do they still beat down pinatas in like 500 years from now?
Yeah.
Look, it's a Star Trek pinata.
They
Yeah,
should have
but no,
like
it's gonna
board
be a Klingon.
pinatas.
The pinata
Exactly.
is a Klingon.
You
and
guys
it's
know
all
that there are so many nerds right now watching this going, that's from an episode of Next Generation.
We haven't gotten to
like-
TNG yet. We haven't started watching TNG. One day
Well,
we'll get
yeah.
there.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what it was.
75, but we'll get there.
Well, I'll tell you what it was all the students, you know, like Deep Space Nine has like the kids and the students. The students had a Captain Picard Day, and Riker kind of comes in and he's like, what's all this? And Picard's just kind of like embarrassed. He's like, it's a happy, you know, Picard Day. And he's like,
Happy
I'm
Picard.
kind of a role model. And that's like the funny line is he's sitting there going, I'm a role model. And then Riker picks up like a little Captain Picard plushie doll and like snuggles it and walks out with it. It's a really funny scene. And so that was a flashback. That's not even like a new thing. I think that's
Yeah.
an exact direct flashback.
That was one thing that they didn't have to stick to canon on, because it was a very cheesy in the middle of this like really dramatic thing. It's like, oh yes, we need you, Captain. You know, save the world. And here's a banner drawn by the local elementary school that's welcoming you. It was a little cheesy.
He should have gone through all the other captains. Do you say, well, what about, you know, what about Captain Nog? No, he died. What about so-and-so? No, he got excommunicated. What about this? What? You're the
Is
last
Pike still
captain.
around?
Call Anson Mount. I heard he's very popular right now.
Well, you guys are done. When you guys are done bashing Picard, which all of us,
No, we're just joking around.
me and Picard are harumphing at you right now.
I
You're
think
a lover?
Brian's a little
Is he your
sensitive,
lover?
Cirroc.
Is that
I'm-
why
I
you're
saw that.
pressing
Very
your face
sensitive.
on
I'm
that?
defending the honor of Picard, and all the nerds right now are thanking me for it because they all agree. Also, there was a little bit more news. They announced the 4 main characters of the new animated series called Star Trek Lower Decks, which is going to be like a whole bunch of ensigns. So that looked really interesting and cool.
So that's us, right? Us 4.
We're up.
That's
We're on
right.
the upper
We're
decks,
announcing that right
unfortunately.
now. It's
Yeah.
us for the stars.
I'm on the lower
Upper
deck.
deckers.
Yes,
And,
we could definitely do voiceover work for that, Aaron, right?
Yeah, we could.
Right.
You can.
You
And
know, people- oh, go ahead, Ryan. Go
Anson
ahead, Ryan.
Mount, they've got they announced 6 more short treks as well, and 3 of those short treks are going to involve Captain Pike and Number 1 and Spock and their crew. They're gonna have like 3 separate short treks for that. So Cirroc, you demanded and they listened.
I was actually asking for a short trek for Aaron, but
Yeah, thank
now
you.
that's kind of
Yeah.
it's upset now. It's upsetting.
Should be basically all about the captain's chair and how they, you know, were able to retrofit it for, you know, someone like me. Quan has a question for you, Hana. Do you remember, and I would be willing to bet this is probably, we all have that question that everybody asks, right? I always get, how long does it take to get your makeup on? And I would assume this is a fair question. How much do you remember of your time on DS9? And to follow that up, when you think back about your experience on the show, if you were to reprise your role, have you ever thought about where you thought, outside of the DS9 documentary and what it kind of demonstrated, have you ever thought about where you would love to see, what you would love to see happen to Molly, or where she would go, and what kind of individual she would be?
So for the first question, the first part of that, I actually surprisingly remember a decent amount for how young I was, because I started when I was 4. So like the very beginning, I don't quite remember the like the audition process. I don't remember that at all. But
your mom does, and that was
my mom does. Should
that's
I tell
a very funny story.
So we went in to the audition room, and there's like, I don't even know, a bunch of kids, but they're all twins, because when you're young, there's, you know, child labor laws or whatever that is. So
those silly child labor laws. Cirroc and I learned about that at San Diego, by the way. I almost got into a fight about child labor laws.
Don't bring that up.
Okay, so we'll put that aside. But yeah, so my mom walks in and she's like, there's no way in hell Hana's getting this. Like, I'll look at all these cute Asian twins, like, that it's just not happening. And so I go in the room. They wouldn't let her in because I assumed she would be a distraction. And I really want to find my audition tape, because apparently they opened the door and I walked out and everyone was just laughing hysterically. So I don't know what I did. Like, I don't think I'm that funny of a person. Maybe
you are.
Yes, you are. I think you swore like a sailor in that room.
Probably. I mean, I grew up with a sailor speaking mom, so
yeah,
it makes sense.
What's the most endearing quality about you that people don't know?
That I'm a badass bitch.
Yeah,
that's right.
We are on a radio station, so we do have to be careful. I think you're the first guest we've had to tell that to.
Which is great, Hana.
It is great.
Set the bar.
I want to see Russ just go, oh no, oh no.
You should have warned me this before. You know how I am.
I know. You know what? I was thinking about it, but I forgot.
Don't. Okay. We've said a lot of things, especially to Rob.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll just go through the edit and I'll just go beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. On YouTube, I've gone out and beeped out every single thing on a video and posted it to YouTube, and it still got flagged and unmonetized, because apparently now beeping is implying bad words, and you can't. I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
You know what? You should just use some audio from like the Three Stooges. You know, it won't be beeping.
Yeah, like some different thing that's not a beep. Yeah.
Okay. So your mom didn't go in. Yeah. Can we edit this out? Hana, your mom wasn't in the room with you when you auditioned?
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
She has no idea what I did. I have no idea what I did. I don't know if I assume they still have the audition tape somewhere.
But you had lines, though? Did you have lines to remember, or you don't remember that part?
I have no idea, honestly. I haven't even asked her that. It's a great question. I'm going to ask her that later, and maybe we'll come back and do another interview, and I'll let you know. But wait, so the second part of the
second half is,
like what Molly would be as an adult.
If you had the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, I think she would be amazing in Starfleet, because she's BAMF. I'm not going to say any bad words anymore, but
no, I want to go whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh, okay. Should I say it?
Yeah, go for it.
3, 2, 1.
Or a badass motherfucker, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. I thought you were going to live beep it, Aaron. I thought you were going to go, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Oh, wait. Okay, are you ready?
Oh, okay. Let's try it. Ready?
Wait, okay. Badass beep.
Oh,
there it is.
Every time I feel you swear it, I'm going to do that. We'll see.
Okay. I'll probably give you some kind of signal.
So, Hana, here's a quick question from you. This is from Rose Kirby, who's one of our biggest supporters on our Facebook page. She asked, what was it like to grow up with a cast and crew as your figurative family?
It was weird and amazing at the same time. Like, I didn't really get to know a lot of the characters or a lot of my co-stars that well because I was so young, but Rosalind and Colin were always so sweet to me. Like they honestly did treat me like their daughter, even off camera. Like it wasn't just, I mean, obviously we were acting on camera, but off camera, same thing. Like they didn't call me, oh, hi, Molly, or daughter or whatever, but they were still so genuine and nice, and it was fantastic. There weren't really that many things that like bugged. There's one thing that freaked me. Are you ready, Aaron?
Yeah.
Freaked me the fuck out. Was the Rumpelstiltskin guy? That guy was.
Hey, no, I was a Ferengi. Come on.
Oh, the
Not
Rumpelstiltskin
you.
guy.
Not
Yeah.
you. It was the Wishes Were Horses episode, or is that what it
We
was?
haven't gotten to that one yet.
Mm. No, it's okay. You can talk about
you
it.
can talk about it.
No, we're really close to it though.
Yeah,
We are
please
going to hit that one.
tell us that experience. That's great.
That's first season.
Yeah. He. Yeah. So.
He scared you?
Are you ready, Aaron? He scared the shit out of me. Oh, he didn't do that, I'm sorry. He scared me like so gnarly. Like I couldn't be in the same room with him by myself.
Wow.
At the time. Like I had to have somebody in there with me because his makeup was so good that I legit thought he was gonna steal me. And
I
like
think-
the story of Rumpelstiltskin, you know, like that's just a childhood. Like yeah, the Rumpelstiltskin comes and steals the child, and I was like too young to realize that it was just acting and it wasn't real life.
Yeah.
It was really gnarly. And they tried to have me, like they took me into the makeup room and let me watch him get his makeup put on. But even once the makeup was on, I was like, nope,
Wow.
not happening.
Side note, Max Grodenchik played Rumpelstiltskin in the movie Rumpelstiltskin.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Much scarier than the Rumpelstiltskin on DS9, but
Yeah, that guy was pretty scary too, though. But no way.
That's interesting that you remember that.
Well, it's like weird how traumatizing things seem to stick in your memory.
Exactly. That's how I feel about working with Cirroc. Traumatizing.
Cirroc's just getting the brunt of everything today. Now
Thank
I feel
you.
bad that I made a couple Cirroc jokes. We're all piling
Thank you.
on.
It's
Cirroc,
all right.
it's your turn to defend yourself.
No, I will not. But I do remember the time that I saw Hana, and I think it was in Vegas, and that was like the first time I had seen you in like I don't know how long. But what was that like, kind of being back in the convention mix?
Oh my God, the first convention I did, it was such a mind trip. I was gonna say the F word, but I went away from that. It just blew my mind because it's something that I did when I was 4 to 10. So it wasn't that 6 years of my childhood, but something that I did when I was so young, and people are still like my fan and like still love me and still were appreciative of just me even talking to them, and that blew my mind. It was like a whole nother world to me, and I loved, like, it was a little intimidating at first, but it was amazing, and now I love the conventions every time. It's just so much fun.
You know, talking with you and having Cirroc here and Ryan, and I think about how all three of us from the show are now older, and we see in the DS9 documentary where we end up in season 8, and it is somewhat of a missed opportunity to have all of us work together within our characters and to see where we would be, 10, 15, 20 years, obviously 20 plus years later, because you and I never did work together.
No.
I think they purposely kept me away from you. I think they were afraid. But we did finally meet. I think I met you first. The first time was in England.
I was just going to say that, for the Destination Star Trek London.
Yeah, that's when I first met you, and that's when I first saw you going to conventions and what have you. So anyway, it sucks because we've kind of built, all of us, or I should say, like you and I have built somewhat of a relationship over the years by meeting at cons and getting to know each other. And I love your mom. Oh my God, she's so great. And I was like, and it's weird. We did work together on Renegades in a very small capacity, but it would be really great to reprise our roles and actually work together.
Yeah.
And I would like to see you working with like Column and seeing you and your dad kind of having an adult to adult conversation.
Yeah, like an adult relationship.
Or
Daddy, like I'm drawing a picture or whatever. I don't even remember the lines right now.
Well, and you also look so young. You could even play somebody still a teenager, 17, turning 18, and becoming an adult with Column, and Rosalind Chow, you know?
Right. Yeah. Just talking about young adult issues and
exactly.
and discussing that with your parents. That would
Now,
be
guys,
nice.
we only have a few seconds left, so we got to run. But yeah, I think everybody said, we all agree that we'd love to see the three of you work together again. We did it in Renegades. Check out Renegades if you look at the guys, Nog and Molly and Jake in some capacity or another all together. I do secretly want to do some kind of like audio drama or something where we get those three characters back together and we can do whatever we want. We can record it in our PJs, no big deal. But
I still have my
Hana,
teeth, so we're good.
thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You guys, ladies and gentlemen, she's been very busy and she's doing finals that are like due tonight, and she's still taking time out because
Oh wow.
finals tonight.
But at least that means I'm done. So that's,
Yeah.
This is right. And
That's
film,
good.
right? You're pursuing film.
Well, I'm taking film classes.
Gotcha.
right
Okay.
now. So I actually graduated, or I'm majoring in psychology.
Okay.
But I took film classes because I thought it'd be dope, and it
Gotcha.
was.
All right, guys.
That's
Well, thank
awesome.
you so very much. We got to run. We are going to come right back with another segment of the seventh rule. But until then, thank you so much to Hana Hatae, and we'll be right back.
It was good. Good time
Oh
talking.
wow.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the seventh rule with your stars, Aron Eisenberg and Cirroc Lofton. My name and a chip.
No, we have to make a point. I just realized through that whole conversation with Hana, Cirroc's Wi-Fi never went out.
I'm not at my house.
That's like 10 points.
I did see somebody walk behind you, but I thought it was a friend of yours.
It is a very good friend. It's my dad.
Oh,
Oh, it's your dad. Cool.
what's up? Have your dad come and say hi.
I don't know if he's around.
I'd love to meet your dad. All right, maybe another time.
Is
Yeah,
your
have him
dad
come
the
by.
one supplying the chips?
He's the one named Aaron as well with 2 A's.
But I'm gonna hold that chip. No, okay. Because remember, people just listen to it, and you're crunching them.
Yeah.
I got you. The audience that's
Thank you.
listening. You're welcome,
Thank
buddy.
you. Thank you.
I got
Thank
you.
you.
So what Aaron is
This
trying
is an
to
audio
say
show.
is that
Yes.
we need to let the audience know, hey guys, you can't see it right now, but
But
Cirroc
this is the sound of me eating this chip here.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Yeah.
So we've got about 25 minutes. Let's get into this week's episode. It was called Vortex by Winrick Colby, or directed by Winrick Colby, and you said you used to call him Rick.
Ricky. I called him Ricky. Everyone else called him Rick.
Ricky, what are your memories of that director?
Of Rick?
Yeah.
Didn't I remember him dating somebody? I think he was dating one of the other cast
I
members.
think it was Kate Mulgrew.
Kate Mulgrew, yeah.
Yeah. Who was on Voyager. And that's why we actually went over there to get buffalo wings. We wanted to spy. He was writing an article on Rick dating Kate Mulgrew. So we really weren't there for the buffalo wings. We were there to see the drama.
Intelligence, gathering intelligence.
To think of how close she was to becoming Kate Colby. Damn it.
So
Mhm.
close. It's interesting when you ask, what's it like working with different directors? It's probably easier for Cirroc to answer that because he worked more than I did on the show. For me, I actually worked with Rick on both DS9 and Voyager because I'm pretty sure he directed Initiations. And my memory is just great. I mean, to be honest, I don't have any memories negatively about any directors at all. I remember enjoying my experience with all of them. Anson probably pushed me more than anybody on Paper Moon, but that was mostly because that was a pretty big and tough scene. So I think we did like 12 takes. He just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Not that that was probably my biggest memory of really working with a director in that sense. Rick was very efficient. That would be a good, my memory, very good. And I loved in this episode, the one scene that kind of stood out for me was when Quark turns to camera and he's like really taking up the whole screen. And you see Odo in the left corner, just slightly behind him out of focus. So I'm like, ooh, they're getting creative on this one. Because we've been a little bit critical that everything is very stagnant, that it's very everything's on sticks and it's very simplified. But
Which, by the way, Ira answered
Yes,
for us
go
this
tell us.
weekend
Yep.
at the San Diego Comic-Con. Ira basically explained to Aaron and I that there were restrictions on the way they could film the show, and that they were not allowed to use handheld camera, and that he caught a lot of resistance every time he wanted to stylize and add those kind of elements. So,
interesting. That's really cool. So for those of you listening in, Aaron and Cirroc went to Comic-Con this weekend. They're invited for the documentary panel with a bunch of other cool guys on there and cool ladies. And you're telling us that that's what Ira said. Did they say why that was the case? Like, what, they just had a specific kind of look that they didn't want handheld, or what was it?
Instead of saying they, you should say Rick Berman.
right.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I didn't want to call him out like that, but you just did.
Well, I didn't think of it as a negative. And here's why I say that. So you have, Rick and Ira who basically are the two people in charge of DS9. And oftentimes they have different ideas of where they want the show to go. And oftentimes Ira would win, especially in the writer's room. He would win the idea of, this is what I really want to do. And I think it's a give and take. And Rick was really adamant of how he wanted it to look. And he wanted it to look very much in Gene's idea with TNG and the original series, and to keep that same theme moving on into DS9, even if they wanted to try new and different things with the camera. And I think it's just a business thing of, okay, I'll give you that, you gave me this, and working together. I mean, that's how I saw it. What would you say, Cirroc?
With his mouth full. So
Well, I mean,
that, I do want to know, like, did they say, like, what the reasoning, like, did Berman say that he didn't want the handheld camera because he didn't like the shaky look, or because he thought that it gave an air of instability, or was there any reasoning behind it?
I don't think. Well, I think that there was what Aaron was alluding to, which is what Rick wanted to keep this kind of consistency and make sure that that there wasn't too much deviation from the precedence that was already set. And like Aaron was also discussing, was Ira was winning some of the battles of storyline and characters that he wanted to develop. Yeah, he was winning that battle, but as far as production and other aspects, Rick was kind of the boss on those different elements. So they kind of split up the role of running the show, where Rick would be the guy making these kind of more broad decisions, and Ira would be in charge of story and character.
Well, that's some really good insight. That makes sense. What it is, it wasn't so much that Rick Berman preferred this look or that look. It was just that that's how the look was already established, and he was trying to keep he was trying to keep that in line
Continuity.
with what it looked like.
Right.
Yeah, the continuity,
Well, that makes
which
sense.
obviously we see with Discovery is, way out
the door.
totally out the door. And we also, and that's what I was kind of trying to allude to when we were talking about the Picard series, is same thing. Now it's not.
No, it's not. It's completely different.
It
they're on location. They mix the locations with and it's basically cut, like a new show, like the way new shows are done.
Exactly.
And I bet that's really exciting for the actors too. I mean, there's a certain nostalgia about going back to the old sets and doing this and that, but I bet you it's more exciting to like bring a few of the old people back, but trying something new and bigger and broader, which is the reason Patrick Stewart said yes to it.
I think that's interesting because a lot of the guys on our show came from theater and from stage. And when you're doing those theater performances, those stage plays, you are on more of a stagnant place. It's a more slower, storytelling pace. You don't get to cut to over here and cut to New York and, and have dream sequences in the same kinds of ways. So there's a lot more leniency with television and film, where you can cut and paste and move things around and alter the pace. But at the same time, some of the things that people really like about Deep Space Nine and other shows is the fact that there is a lot of character development in these kind of slower moving scenes, which is what we saw in this Vortex. A lot of dialogue
Character development.
and a lot of character development. Yeah.
And as one of our patrons said, Ian, he said it was a strange foreshadowing of the future of the show. So I'll give a shout out to Ian K with that, which is actually what Melissa told me too when I was asking her about Vortex, that we're seeing the little seeds being dropped.
Right.
Yeah, for Odo's character?
Yeah, for Odo's character. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks. I was hoping to get into that right now too. That's a perfect segue. Let's talk about that a little bit. These are all things that I don't remember seeing in the first season, and I was like, wow, did they actually just drop a little Odo?
They dropped the gem. They dropped the gem like way in advance. Yes, super in advance. Yeah, which I don't know if they did purposely. I don't know if they did it.
Well, they did make the decision that maybe Odo's character or Odo's race comes from the Gamma Quadrant.
Right.
So that's already being established. I mean, they could always go back on and be like, the guy was mistaken or whatever.
But we know they don't.
Well, no, they are from the Gamma Quadrant.
Oh, I know, but they didn't. Yeah. They didn't go back on it. And when we were talking with Ira, I was asking them that. Were the writers like seat of their pants type writing? You know, just taking it wherever it would go, or do they have a major plan where they wanted to go? And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cirroc, I think his answer was somewhere in the middle. It's kind of a little bit in the middle. It's a little bit of both. It wasn't one or the other. I was offering. Oh, go ahead. Correct.
Well, I remember. No, you weren't wrong, and I just wanted to give a specific example for the viewers out there, because we had earlier in an earlier podcast talk about the change in Rom's character,
and we see it in this one.
And we see it specifically in this episode where Rom now is starting to become this more, you know, the babbling little brother, the kind of the kind of idiot brother, as opposed
cowardly,
the cowardly,
And his voice is coming back into the Rom that we know. It's still a little bit harsh, but it's turning into the Rom that we know.
But what Ira alluded to in our conversation this weekend was that he wasn't able to get that, which is something he wanted, this kind of a character, out of Armin.
Or it wasn't going to work with them.
It wasn't going to work with Armin because Armin wasn't giving that. And so that tells me that
he didn't say that Armin wasn't giving it. I think what he said, because
they weren't going to get that from Armin. That's
they weren't going to get well, here's what I thought. I thought he said it wasn't going to be the dynamic with Rom being the dominant Ferengi wasn't going to work in his eyes. That they had to switch the dominance. It wasn't about the actors. It was more about that dynamic. I thought he felt wasn't really going to work.
See, I thought it's about the actors. I thought that
I didn't think it was about the actors.
Well, I thought that they go back and they watch the film and they see how Armin plays Quark, and they realize there's no way Armin's going to play Quark. It doesn't make sense for him to play weaker because he's already committed to that, and that's what they see visually on the screen.
Because then Rom would have to be even bigger than that. Yeah, maybe that's
So they watch the dailies and they're watching what they film, and they're saying, well, I mean, it's like watching what you see and you're saying, well, is Avery going to play this kind of a way? It doesn't make sense because what we see is a strong, this kind of a person who's, adamant and powerful. Why would he play this subservient type of goofy character? So when you see what you see, it kind of informs you to kind of go in a different direction or not try to go in another direction.
That's really interesting that you're right that today, or this episode of Vortex, was the first time that we see Rom's character go from like the domineering parent type that's like, I mean, he's still gonna be a little tough on Nog, I bet, but it's definitely a different personality type. They definitely kind of did a little switch to where they say, all right,
he's cowardly. Huge switch.
We're like this, like this. I was like, that's my dad. Come on, man, get a spine. And he's really dumb. And
don't talk about your father like that.
And you
respect your father.
And what's funny is every time Armin's talking to me, you idiot, you bubbling fool. God, he looks at him with such contempt.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch, actually. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't know of these scenes. We talk about how I didn't have all the scripts, right? And I was thinking to myself, had I seen that, I probably would have looked at Quark a little bit more like, I'm going to kick your ass, like, I'm like, it made me mad. It made me a bit protective of my father. And they never touch upon that on the show anywhere.
That would have been a great dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
or you could have stood up to him and told him, why do you act like this? You know, I just saw you do this, do that, and try to, you know, make him realize his own behavior.
Or that would be probably my human nature, right? My human reaction. Or in the Ferengi world, is it different? Does it really look to like, I don't blame Quark, I blame my dad. And then I'm like, yeah, thank God I got my Uncle Quark around. You know, I mean, does a Ferengi look at it differently? We never explored that. And I found that interesting watching this episode. And it was hard to watch my dad like that as a human.
Yeah. But I thought the foreshadowing in this episode is kind of remarkable, that they were able to take this very, you know, singular episode and build the whole idea of the founders and who's running the Dominion and all of these kinds of things out of this very kind of haphazardly random interaction between a guy selling this changeling chain, and you know, it's pretty amazing.
I was impressed that the Fabergé egg is still around. I was like, wow, that's amazing. That this far into the future, it's still. I mean, it's an item that people die for. I thought
I enjoyed when Odo is basically saying he got all his intel from Morn. Yeah, Morn told me. He told me what's going on over here. The guy who never says anything. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
My one critique of this show, and I was asking Melissa, and I was trying to find it in the show itself, was I still don't understand why. I hope I'm saying his name right. Is it Croden? I'm looking at my notes. What is the goal if his daughter is in stasis? And he's now arrived with the Klingons to DS9. And then he's got some deal with Quark, or he wants the Fabergé egg. What's his goal here? Because his ultimate goal has to be to, get his daughter back. And then it was great to hear about and touch upon the idea of a different species and how they govern and how they work, and govern pretty poorly, at least from my perspective, almost in a fascist mentality, or even worse, with, killing his 2 wives. So now we've got multiple wives with him, which was an interesting idea. And you have isolationism, because the whoever, I don't know his name offhand, I should write those notes better, but the leader of the home world saying, bring them back, but we don't want to know anything about you. They don't want to engage with Starfleet, with humans, with Bajorans, which was interesting. So there was some, and I loved Sisko's response. Then we let it go and we just give them back and we move on. It was kind of, that was kind of cool, just touching upon that a little bit. We didn't explore it, but it was nice to touch upon it.
We got a little bit of what we've been wanting, which is we're noticing how certain episodes are kind of like, this is an O'Brien episode, this is the Dax episode. We got kind of our first or maybe second Odo episode. This was the one where we really learned something about Odo, or a couple hints, and it was an Odo-centric episode. And I kind of want to know what you guys thought of it. Like, did it make you like the character more, or did it not really do much for you either way?
He's a big softie, let's be honest. He's a softie. He should have been like, I don't care. You're going back to face your crimes. No, I love Renee's character. I love watching him. He's just so great. And I really like Odo. I as I've said in the previous episodes, him and Quark are just on. I mean, they established their characters right away, and they nailed it. And I was talking to Andy about that, about nailing his character Garrick, and we've only seen him once. And I was talking about that. He's all, it's the makeup. You put it on, and then and it's there. That's where it is. And you find it once that's all together. And I'll be honest, I know exactly what he's talking about. For 7 years, once I got all the makeup on, once the teeth were in, I was like, there's Nog. Until I saw Cirroc and said, is the voice the same? and I'd have to double check my voice and make sure I was.
No, you know what I think is interesting about the Quark Odo dynamic is that I like the friction.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the shows, they try to make everybody buddies, and everything is so friendly. And one of the things I watch when I see Next Generation, I feel like everybody's like just in a very cool with each other and in a Zen mode.
You know
and
what?
this,
When my screenwriting teacher used to say that nobody wants to watch The Village of Happy People. You gotta create conflict. And what you're saying is Next Generation is kind of the Village of Happy People.
Yeah.
Shout out to Eric Swellstead, by the way, my screenwriting professor. Please continue.
But no, I that's exactly what I feel, the Village of Happy People. And then when you see our show, there's so much tension in between. I mean, even the Jake and Nog relationship starts off with, get away from me. It's like,
I know who you are.
Yeah, it starts off with like a headbutting.
And well, also with our species, with your dad saying, "Hey, you guys, we can't get along with them," know. And
I don't want you guys being together. So, and there's a lot of elements of this kind of friction where you have Nana and the friction she has in between. Well, Gul Dukat and all these other characters that she has this real animosity towards.
Yeah, even with Sisko when he
everybody.
Even with Sisko, there was some friction there.
Even with Sisko, and that's one of the things that is pretty interesting in this show, which I think Odo and Quark exemplify the best. It's this kind of weird dynamic where they hate each other, but they love each other.
Yeah.
And there was a line in that episode where he says, "No wonder nobody's seen a changeling, because you guys are all jerks and they're hiding from everyone." It was something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing.
He was in the bar. He was so upset.
Yeah, he was so upset.
Quark was so upset.
You're scaring my customers away. You don't buy a drink, and I don't know what you're here for.
I'm just a bartender. Why is there always some major plan? There's this major conspiracy every time. It was great.
Yeah, it's like no wonder nobody's seen a changeling, because you guys are hiding from everybody.
And I love watching Armin and Renee because they're locked in. They're just right there in the scene together. It's just really fun to watch that dynamic. And to take your point, Cirroc, and go further into Discovery, they didn't have that. So you have DS9 elements in the show, right? But you don't have DS9 elements with the characters. You start off Discovery with a little bit of friction between Saru and Burnham, right? Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Then they solve it pretty quickly, Right.
And with Spock and Burnham, there was a little bit of friction.
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
But then it kind of dissolved too as well, though. It didn't last. The Odo Quark beef went on the whole series, and as a matter of fact, they played a clip at the Comic-Con, which was their goodbye moment in the final episode. Well, aren't you gonna say goodbye to me? And Odo kind of says no, you know. And they did the goof outtake, which they never used, but it was fun to see, where they actually kissed.
Wait, don't say what happened.
Oh,
because remember, a lot of people haven't seen it. They haven't got the DVD. That's going to be on there. But
is it going to be on there?
Yeah, I think so. But we do know that he says, "You're not going to say goodbye, that I was a worthy adversary."
Right.
And Renee, Odo walks up to him, kind of shuffles up to him, and his little arms fold and goes, "Huh." And that is, he loves me. The harumph. The harumph. I mean, what wonderful actors to create that dynamic over the 7 years to give the writers that moment for the final episode, the final goodbye. I mean,
you got to credit the writers too, because sometimes writers might tend to overwrite and have Odo say, "Yes, you were a worthy adversary, and I'll miss you," and then they hug. That's the tempting thing to do, is have these characters after 7 years finally come together.
Right.
They got to be sophisticated enough that we're just going to smile and nod when Odo just goes,
But the writers need that built from the actors.
That's right.
In order to use that. Because if they did the harumph then, like, why did he harumph? He's never harumphed. He's never been a harumpher. I've never seen Odo as a harumpher. He's not a harumpher. Why is he harumphing? Jim Westbrook has a good point, though. Jim Westbrook, one of our patrons on our show, said DS9 had the advantage of mixing Starfleet Bajoran militia and Cardassian forces. Lots of friction already set from the get-go. So
Right.
that's a bit where Discovery didn't have that to some degree with the Klingons, but how do you have that kind of friction, Ryan, as a writer on one ship? How do you set up the things that we love about DS9 on one ship if you don't have the exterior elements consistently adding to that and then keeping those exterior elements throughout the longevity of the show?
Well, the truth is you don't need those exterior elements. Now you can include those, and they did, because otherwise we would lose a huge chunk of what we like about the show, which is the aliens and the adventures and the different species and all this kind of stuff and the attacks and war and whatever. But most conflict comes from character to character. And if you'll notice, almost all of the stories, even if it's from a different species, the conflict is character to character. It's not some anomaly that pops up, and it's not just they just happen to be at war,
Mm-hmm.
It's like even when they are at war, the conflict is from person to person. Even if they're allies, there's a conflict between the Vulcans and the humans, or the Klingons and the Federation. Or there's even a conflict between best of friends, like Nog and Jake when they move in together. Or even
That's the Odd Couple.
yes, Sisko and Kira having a meeting and they're disagreeing on something. Literally every single scene will have and must have conflict between characters. Otherwise, the scene doesn't belong in an episode.
And that validates my critique of Voyager right from the get-go, because they set up so much conflict that was just ripe to take that into the show, and they got rid of that conflict in the pilot to the second episode.
There's one thing that stood out to me also in this episode was, well, you mentioned that Odo lets him go, right? And there's always a sense that that justice is being played out in different ways. Sometimes they let him go, sometimes they capture, sometimes Sisko says this, sometimes it's okay. So I feel like the way the morality is set up, I like the fact that Odo doesn't stick to the book so hard and say, well, this is the rule says that you have, you've done this and you're in violation, and that's it. I have to put you in jail. I like that there's like this humanity and this conscientious decision to say, all right, I'm going to let this pass or not in Odo's character. Yeah.
The one thing that I do feel was missing from this, and maybe I missed it, and so that's what we have, maybe a minute and a half.
Yeah.
What was the morality in this episode? What was the question? Was it taking somebody and bringing them back to pay for their crimes, or make the judgment and say, this is actually a good man trying to protect his daughter and escape and get out of a very bad situation, and I'm going to help them get away from that and move on.
I thought the same thing when I was watching it. I was thinking, I feel like just about every episode, no matter how good or not great it was, there was a very clear theme that came out that we could chew on. And this one had less so. I mean, you touched upon the two that it kind of had, but this one didn't really have that poignant theme that it touched on. I mean, yeah, Odo kind of was like, okay, I'll let him go because he saved me. But that's not really a theme. That's just kind of something that happens in a lot of episodes.
They have explored it more.
Yeah.
I think the question here was about cruel and unusual punishment.
Okay.
Because the guy was saying that punishment for his crime was them killing his whole family, right?
For speaking out against the government.
Right. And they were going to kill his whole family, essentially. And to me, I think that's where Odo made the decision that it's cruel and unusual punishment, and that the punishment doesn't fit the crime, and that's why he overrides and lets him leave.
Very good. So it was less about Odo making a judgment call on the guy's character, and more so making a call on what he deems to be an unfair rule or law system.
And the other thing I liked about this episode was how much passion Odo had to find out his past that we didn't know, that he didn't know anything about. We really find out that Odo doesn't know anything about himself, and how important it was for him to learn that. And once he got a taste of it, he's like, what? Tell me more, and that was kind of, I like that.
It causes him to act slightly out of character because his desire is so hard to find out about his own self that he does things that he wouldn't normally do.
Right.
All right, friends, we got to wrap it up. I'm sorry, I just saw that we went a little bit over already because we got so wrapped up, and we wait till like the last 30 seconds. And Cirroc unlocked it for us, and now we're going nuts for it. But great job, guys. Thank you so much to Hana Hatae. Thank you very much to our Trek techs, Kat R. King and Heather Jordan. For Cirroc Lofton, Russ Hasledge, Aron Eisenberg, my name is Ryan T. Husk, and always remember the seventh rule. Those of you That's right, Cirroc. Those of you waiting and watching on video, hang on just 1 second. We're going to be right back with the free-for-all.
Right back.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the seventh rule. This is the free-for-all with Kat R. King, Michael Nguyen, Cirroc Lofton, Aron Eisenberg. I'm Ryan T. Husk. And Darth Shuey.
Hey, what's up, Darth?
What's going on, guys?
My alien co-buddy.
And Captain Picard is joining us, of course.
No, Ryan, you've had to show your tie every show we did. Every show you showed that.
Kat, did you see the trailer?
Of course I did. I've seen it several times now.
What do you think?
Find Cirroc and I in it? We're in there.
I didn't see either of them, so
We were there.
I'm boycotting.
We were there.
I'm boycotting.
It's the fight scene. The fight scene.
Well, there was this big.
Yeah.
We're in the back because he was filming Nog in a documentary. You know.
Okay.
Look
Yeah.
up at Cirroc. This is what it's like working with him for me. Just so you guys know. This is my perspective. Now you all can see through my eyes what it's like working with Cirroc Lofton.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, guys.
Don't kick me. Don't kick me.
So today's question in the free-for-all, this is the big one.
Do we want to wait? Do we want to wait for Heather?
Well, we don't know if she's coming or not, so I don't know how long we'd be waiting. But if she does join us, she can answer the question too. Here's the question.
Pepperoni.
I like that.
Nailed
What
it.
would you like to put in your? Oh, Cirroc already answered. No, Aaron didn't like that joke. So
It's just, yeah. We'll figure out how to get to Star Trek. That's all.
so the question is, of all the cities in the United States that you have not seen yet, which one would you like to most visit?
Oh, that's
Wow.
easy for me.
Let's hear it, Cirroc.
Austin, Texas.
Really?
Yeah,
Capital.
I've heard a lot about Austin, and everybody says how great it is, and I've always wanted to be there.
They got the best pools out there.
Mm.
Laying on the ground or something.
Have they?
Oh, thanks, Aaron, for pointing that out.
You gotcha. I gotcha. That was a really far callback.
Yeah.
And
What about
slightly off, but
Oh,
the same
me.
state.
NYC, the Big Apple.
Oh, wow.
Let me know.
For all the obvious
Queens,
reasons.
Kat. He's not in Queens, but he's very close to Queens.
You've never been?
Means nothing to me whatsoever. I have no idea what the geography is.
He's in the Big Apple. He's there. Michael is in the Big Apple.
We have
Cool,
a Star
cool.
Trek club. You'd be welcome to drink and put on costumes with us. So
Drink first, then put on the costume. Yeah, apparently,
I
Michael,
I will have my
drink first,
people
and then they
contact
watch you
your
put on a
people.
costume. That's what they do.
Yeah.
well,
Not in Queens.
What about you, Aaron?
Pacoima. I always love
Okay.
Pacoima.
Koima.
Not Pacoima.
Oh, Pacoima. I worked in Silmar.
Thank you.
So.
But Silmar's further away. Pacoima's in the San Fernando Valley. Pacoima. Where
Yeah.
would I go that I haven't been to? I don't know. There's so many places I would love to go that I haven't been to. Does it have to be in the United States?
Yes. For this question, yes.
That's kind of.
That makes it so it's more centralized.
I'll answer for Aaron.
Oh, you will? Okay, where would I go?
You would go somewhere in Florida, probably.
Oh my God, no way.
Palm
It's
Beach.
they still have a law that you cannot have sex with porcupines in Florida.
That's up
Wow.
that's up for vote this year.
Oh, I'm gonna. The
There's a
sad thing
movement.
is that it's actually up for vote. Does that mean someone's gonna say, hey, let's let them do it? It's okay. The porcupine will probably be okay. Or the fact that it has to even go up for vote. I don't even know why.
Is there a real law? Is this real?
Yes, it is real. It is actually real. I would probably go to Montana, somewhere in Montana.
I like that.
Bozeman would be fun.
Yeah, I would love to. I watch Yellowstone, and I want to hang out with Kevin Costner on a cabin. And
So you
and
just
look
picked
at
the whole state, just for the
the
record.
whole state. Yeah,
You
the
didn't pick
whole
a city.
state.
You picked a state.
Yeah, is that okay with you?
One.
No, not really. You
No?
got look up a city in Montana that you might want to go to.
Any city that has the big giant mountains and the big landscapes. I can feel like I can recreate Legends of the Fall. I'll put a chalkboard on my chest for you, as
Thank
you
you.
asked me to do at San Diego Comic-Con.
For some reason, I pictured
That was private.
I
Aaron.
pictured
sorry.
Aaron being like a Russian saying "City no,
City, no.
state da."
Large tenement building. Duh.
Basically,
Now,
you can drop me off in Montana and I'll be okay.
What about you, Michael? I'm feeling a Texan city too. He's thinking Dallas more like though. I think.
Well, I've lived in Texas before. I've been
Oh.
to Dallas.
Okay.
But I like it there, and we have a Texas Trekkies group out there. So But I
you
think
get to
right
put on your
now-
costume first, then drink.
No,
in that
no,
order,
drink,
so
then costume, please.
No, that's New York. Texas is the opposite.
It's a different thing. So
The
I
other
don't know,
way,
I actually,
yeah.
You said Florida earlier, and I've been lately like a huge NASA nerd. So I'd like to check out Kennedy Space Center.
It's
and go to
great.
Florida,
Yeah, it's so cool. It's
Cape
cool.
Canaveral.
Kennedy,
I want to go around the United States and visit all the amusement parks and go on all the roller coasters with Cirroc. That's what I
Wally
want.
World.
in an RV.
Wally World, yes.
Wally World.
Zombieland.
Vacation. Star Trek.
I was just at Universal. I did Knott's. We did Disney. You guys missed
Yeah.
out.
I didn't get the invite, Kat. Don't know what to tell you.
What's
Darth,
your
settle
answer,
down.
Ryan?
Darth, calm down.
Soak City.
I
Not
don't-
Soak City. Be there tomorrow.
Darth hasn't moved that I actually started to believe it was a picture behind Ryan. That was a new
really good,
picture.
right?
I just showered, so
Darth is, must be Sunday.
Okay,
So-
Six Flags. Six Flags. You should pick a day to go to Six Flags. You guys like cool.
Oh yeah.
I need to take Melissa there. She has not been to Magic Mountain.
Oh my God.
So we
Oh,
do a Magic
25
Mountain
bucks
trip?
a month. It's
That's
such
bad
a
of
good
you,
deal.
man. You've got to take her.
Yeah, I know. I feel like you're talking down to me right now.
I am, and it's very disappointing.
Isn't that how it always works?
Yeah, it always.
Ryan,
works that way.
what's your
No,
answer,
Actually,
Ryan?
Kat, that's
Yeah.
not true. When we were sitting on the promenade, we were eye to eye.
We were eye to eye.
And this last
Oh,
weekend,
that's true.
Cirroc realized that my torso is actually incredibly long, and that my
Oh.
legs just didn't catch up
Yeah.
because when we were sitting.
And
at the-
I have a short torso
Yeah.
and long legs, so we're actually even like eye level when we're both sitting down.
This is true.
You know, Cirroc, I don't have an answer yet. I'm going to stall. I didn't even think about my own answer to my question, so I'm going to ask Darth while I think
Darth,
about
yeah.
it. What do you think, Darth?
Geez, God, I guess I would probably go with Kat and say I don't know geography very well, but I'm gonna say the Big Apple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the
Come,
cities.
just
and
Everybody
know.
wants to be near you, Mike.
Well,
That's right.
I'd like to think that.
I
Oh,
thought
I
Darth
got
was going to say Morocco, even though
Okay,
it's not
I can narrow it down to two. I would
Well, you have to
say-
pick one.
Okay, well then I would have maybe normally said Roswell, but I think I'm going to hold
Yeah.
off on that for right now. because
Hold off.
It's getting a little crazy over there, so I'm going to pick Tombstone. Tombstone, Arizona.
Like the movie.
Tombstone.
That would be
Yeah.
a really cool place to go, and it wouldn't be too far away. It'd be maybe like a 8 or 9 hour drive for us.
Right.
I've been.
Would
It is
you
cool.
would you cosplay for that, like as a cowboy?
Yeah, I could cosplay as a
Yes. Yeah.
Michael,
Oh.
would you cosplay an Abraham Lincoln convention?
Well, would I go to an Abraham Lincoln convention? Is that
This
What's
is
the
going to
tickets?
lead this is going to lead to a John Wilkes Booth joke. That's
there
very
like-
Oh,
that's
spoiler
all-
A
alert.
John Wilkes Booth joke.
whenever you talk about conventions, I'm immediately thinking about what's the ticket level? Is it going to be on Groupon later?
He wants you to cosplay as John Wilkes Booth at an Abraham Lincoln convention.
There is an Abraham Lincoln cosplayer at Star Trek Vegas.
There you go.
Okay,
So
well,
you
guys,
need to
what-
cosplay John Wilkes Booth and
Oh, God.
stalk
gosh.
him. Just walk behind him.
This
photo
costume at
bomb.
the moment's already a little hot. I don't know if I can add more costumes.
You're-
There's
John
this
99
one that I
degrees.
saw that it said something like John Wilkes Booth loves the theater. And then there was another one that said Abraham Lincoln hates the theater.
Did Darth pick us? So Darth was New York.
He said Big
I thought he
Apple.
said Okay.
He
Oh,
said
he
Big
wants
Apple.
to visit Apple up north near San Francisco. That's what
The Apple Store.
The Apple Valley.
Casino.
The big new
Apple
complex.
Cupertino.
you
I'm
know,
surprised
the
we
big
didn't get any
Apple.
like tropical places that nobody wanted to be like near
because he
water.
said the
All been.
United States.
Well, Hawaii's in the United States.
That's
It
a good
is.
point. It's a good
So
point.
is
Is that,
Juno.
Puerto
Juno?
Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Kinda.
I'm so defensive.
Kinda.
Doesn't count.
Alaska.
Yeah, Juno. Hey, Juno.
Juno.
Juno?
Well, this is about the time where the bad jokes start picking up. So we're going to trim it out down in about 1 minute. Final
But
thought.
Hana couldn't be here.
Oh, Heather.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Way to bring it down. Sorry, Ryan. What were you going to say?
What was the final thought on?
Was there another question? A final question?
No.
Just
Okay.
final thought. Yeah.
We have nowhere to go with that.
Michael, do you have a final thought about your Battlestar Galactica hangar background?
That's now that we all know is the incorrect thing to have on a Star Trek themed podcast.
Oh,
I am
no.
wearing the
Oh,
right
it's
pins.
perfect.
The right
It was
pins,
great. Are you kidding?
So, no. Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to hang out with you guys like this.
It's
Sincerely.
great to have
So
you on
thank
the show, Michael.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's fun.
Awesome.
Kat,
Well,
what's
that's-
going on with you?
Oh, a little of this, a little of that. Work.
What's
That's
this
right.
and what's that?
I've been working with kids in Spain and Guadeloupe. I teach English to those kiddos, and then we've been chaperoning them around all over to all the theme parks and all the tour and the
Oh, wow.
sightseeing.
Wow.
It's been really fun, but I'm exhausted. So ready for
Yeah.
STLV. Very, very much ready for Vegas.
Oh, and we've got to do a little get together at STLV. Just
Yes.
to Ryan. So yeah,
Yeah, we'll do that.
I think there's a
We should do, like, a
McDonald's,
little
maybe
mix-up.
Carl's Jr. We could hit it.
Burger King's right in the casino.
I don't go to Burger
That's
King. They say it's
Smash
flame
burger.
broiled, but I'm not really believing it.
You're not buying that.
Not buying it.
And I
no.
heard you shouldn't flame broil hamburgers also.
What?
Hamburger connoisseurs say you should not put it on the grill. Just saying.
Oh.
Google it.
Man,
Darth,
Wow.
Darth doesn't look
I
like he
think-
believes me.
Yeah, all the
I think I've
millions
heard
of
that
barbecues I've gone to.
Somewhere.
They're so
Look it
delicious.
up. Look it up. You don't trust me? You don't believe me?
No.
Look it up, Darth.
We got.
Never trust a Ferengi off his first word.
It's true.
I know. Isn't that like the
I
first
actually-
rule of acquisition?
That's the first
Just
rule.
read it the other day. You should not put burgers on the grill. You should not. Because
Agreed.
the argument is you cook it on, you don't, because it loses all the juices into the grill.
All the
So
fat.
You actually should
Yeah.
cook it in a pan, or you put the pan on the barbecue so it gets to
Oh.
keep the juices and keep the flavoring.
I thought
There
with
you
Guy
go.
Fieri,
There you go.
Like,
I
Thank
just
you.
taught all of you
Thank
how
you
to
for that.
truly make a burger.
Well, to be honest,
Thank
I
you,
don't
Michael.
ever
Michael,
grill
thank you.
I don't ever grill burgers on a barbecue either because I'm vegetarian. So
Yeah, well,
Oh,
Darth
I
does
know
because he looked pretty upset.
He's upset about it.
He's gonna fight
He's
you.
very upset
He's
about it.
good. He's
As
separated.
am I. As am I.
I don't know if Darth should come back if he's going to be that upset when I say something.
Hey, don't be rude to our guests.
I'm gonna
please.
see you in
I'm
Vegas. You
sorry.
ruined
I'm
burgers
sorry.
for me.
I'm getting a little upset right now. I'm
No
getting
more
Dark Room
Burger
spot
King.
me once, so.
yeah.
So
No
much for
burgers.
the
Yeah,
Burger
no.
King sponsorship that we had in the works.
yeah, bummer.
Hey, can I give a little shout out to JJ Lendl for the artwork behind me?
Please,
A
please,
little
please.
shout out.
hell yeah, it's so good. Looks
Because
great.
we didn't say it earlier. This is one of our new pieces. You can't
Yeah.
see Cirroc's eyes and nose, but this is him. This is
I
Jake.
got to meet JJ actually in San Diego just on Friday,
Oh,
which was
cool.
great.
I was
yeah.
there too, actually. Yeah. I
You
was
you
with
introduced me, so I'm
So
just
in
putting
this
that out there.
business,
Mm.
Now, in this business, that's called a tail slate, kind of. We did a tail slate of the
And
Exactly.
of our sponsor, but we'll jump right back on it next week. But we do have to run. This has been the free for all. This is the 7th rule. Thank you to Michael, Kat, Aaron, Cirroc, Russ Hadlidge, myself, Darth F. Shuey. His name really is Darth, and you'll see him in Vegas. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Always.
you'll be on the party bus, right, Darth?
Ah, that's right. Nice. Yeah.
Remember the
Yes, see
7th
you on
rule,
the bus.
Button.
Very good.
Thank you.